If you find yourself in debt or you've got some financial issues, you want to take care of them, I'm going to give you a 3-step plan. But first, let me give you an analogy. If you've got something that you're putting together and you've got a screw and you grab a hammer, is that going to help you? No, because what you need for that job is a screwdriver. Does that make the hammer a bad tool? Of course it doesn't. The hammer is an excellent tool. You're just using it wrong. So a lot of people will say, is a HELOC any good? Should I get a HELOC, home equity line of credit? Should I just get a regular line of credit? Should I get a personal loan? Are those any good? Well, yes, no, maybe. They're all great tools. You got to think of all the different options to help you get out of debt as just different tools. And whether or not they apply to you depends on your particular circumstances. I always say I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. But on my channel, I help people get out of debt and then save for their financial future. Create passive income. Real freedom is obtaining financial freedom. Why listen to me? I got out of debt with over $200,000 from a divorce. I've got multiple businesses. I spend quite a bit on credit cards. I show how to use the credit cards. But most importantly, if you find yourself trying to get out of debt, it can feel like a daunting situation and you just want to jump in and start. But I'm going to give you a 3-step plan. Take a deep breath, take a step back, because oftentimes you need to plan before you execute. What I've seen recently is quite disturbing. We're all following the economy and that sort of thing. But I'm going to show you 4 quick things here, and then I'm going to give you that 3-step plan. The first is this article showing that they say 80% of families are struggling. And this was on many different news outlets because there was a study done, and they said that they had less than they had before the 2020 pandemic. In other words, they're in a worse financial condition. All right, what does that really mean? Well, look at this. Savings rates are only around 3%, which is historically fairly low. Before the pandemic, it was around 7. There was times in the past it's been around 15, meaning that out of someone's income, they're able to save a certain percent. So they're not saving a lot. Look at this. Credit card debt. You've probably seen this, over $1 trillion in total among Americans. Now, it was just 2020, it was $850 billion. So it's gone up $200 billion in a couple of years. But look at year 2000. It was at $200 billion. It's gone up 5 times in 20 years. The American consumer has taken on 5 times as much debt as they used to have just 20 years ago. That's substantial. Look at this. Credit card delinquencies. While they're still low, it's a trajectory up and to the right, meaning people are starting to default on their credit cards. Then you look at this and you see that HELOCs are on the rise, home equity lines of credit. Okay, what does all this mean? Who cares? Well, what it means is it's showing that people are not able to save as much money. They don't have large savings amounts, which typically means they're tapping into savings to pay bills. Then credit card is going up, the amount of debt people are taking on. So now they're reaching out and using credit cards, and you might find yourself in this position. And they're using credit cards to pay their expenses. And some of them are now unable to pay their credit card bills. And then they're looking at things like the HELOCs, ways of getting equity out of their home. Okay, why are they doing these things? They're doing these things to help pay their expenses. Well, why would they need to pay their expenses? Let's assume that you or they are employed. Okay, if they're employed and they're having to reach out in the savings or credit cards or a line of equity of their home, that means what? They're spending more than they're making. Okay, so here's the 3-step plan. First, before you jump in and decide to take out that home equity line of credit or to get a personal loan and consolidate some credit cards, whatever it may be, first you got to budget properly. This is Wednesday. Tomorrow, Thursday, I'm going to have an episode just talking about budgeting. People hate that word. They don't want to do it. But I'm going to give you a quick way to see exactly how much you're spending every month. It only takes a couple minutes. Compare that to what you're making. And if you follow that simple video, you'll know immediately, are you spending too much? That's the first thing you have to fix. You got to spend less than you're making. Otherwise, all you're doing is putting off the inevitable. If you're spending more than you're making, and you go out and you receive some money out of your home equity line of credit, and you start using that to make up the difference, you're just going deeper into debt. You're eating the equity in your home. What if the housing market crashes? Now you're underwater. And to actually sell your home, you would have to go to closing with a pile of cash. That happened after 2008 financial crisis. I know people that had to do that. They had to either walk away from their home or they had to go to closing with some cash in order to get rid of the house. So first, make sure that you're budgeting, or at least you're spending less than you make. Second thing, create an emergency fund. All of this information that I'm showing you and what you're seeing, let's call it macro information. It's what's happening to the economy at whole. But what happens to your neighbor doesn't necessarily happen to you. If unfortunately your neighbor loses their job, it doesn't necessarily mean you lose your job. That's micro. What exactly is happening to you? So if you're in a position where you're still employed, get your spending in check, create an emergency fund. How can you make that last if you were to lose your job? That video link will be down below. I show you how to cut your expenses back to make that emergency fund last even longer. It might take you a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year to find another job. Who knows? Try to be prepared. Why? Why does it really matter? Because I've always found in life, as you can see, I'm old, that when things go well, they go well slowly. You might have a job, you might get a raise every now and then, things getting better, better, better. But when things go bad, they go bad immediately, like falling off a cliff. All of a sudden you lost your job and your income goes to zero. That's a quick bad. That happens all the time. Now, if that were to happen and you don't have an emergency fund and you just miss one credit card payment, for example, and that hits your credit report, that's going to stay on there for, I think it's up to 7 years now. Now, all of a sudden, 3 years from now, you want to get a car. You're hoping to get a low interest rate on that used car, but you have a high interest rate. And none of the banks will give you a low interest rate. Why? Because they're looking at your credit. You missed that one payment. So when things go bad, they happen fast and they stick with you for a long time. So the more you can prepare to make sure that doesn't happen, the better. Okay, so that's the second thing. Make sure that you've got your emergency fund and you're ready. Then, and only then, do you start looking at how can you pay off those debts. Now go grab the hammer or the screwdriver depending upon your situation. If you have 2 credit cards and they're at 20%, and you can get a personal loan for 12% with fixed monthly payments, that might be the tool you want to use. There's many different tools. I have another video which I'll link down below, and it's going to have, I think it shows links for 12 different videos that I put out just to help you get out of debt, different methods. So take a look at those, but that's essentially your 3-step plan. Make sure you're spending less than you're making. Try to put together a budget so that month to month you're not going deeper into debt. Look at having an emergency fund in case the worst happens and something bad happens, losing a job, whatever it may be, or expenses coming up out of nowhere. And then third, then look at all of your debts and figure out a plan that you can implement that works for you using the tools for you. Thanks for watching. I hope this is helpful. I put out an episode every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then various episodes throughout the week, different strategies to help you get out of debt and different ways to help you achieve your financial freedom, because the government doesn't care about you, banks don't care about you, and to really achieve freedom, you need to achieve financial freedom. Thanks. Have a great day.